We call him Rainman. That's what Travaris Robinson had to say about Glenn Schuman. Here's more. He says he's very intelligent, very intelligent. He sees everything, has really good ideas, and he does a really great job in front of the guys. I think the guys really respect him. He does a really great job of delegating different things to the staff and giving people ownership in their job. You should see him make some kind of edit or any kind of slide talking about the defensive line. He's one of the best on the computer I've ever seen, and he's an awesome dude. He's a great guy. He's a staff guy. He's a guy that I'm eager to continue to learn from and be a part of, and be a part of, I should say, and help with what we're trying to get accomplished here. That's again Travaris Robinson, T Rob, as a lot of people call him, talking about Glenn Schuman, who has certainly come a long way. He is I think he's the final person left from Kirby's initial staff that came over from Alabama, and he's done a heck of a job. I very clearly remember when when Glenn got to Georgia, he was in his 20s, mid to late 20s, kind of that 26-7 range, somewhere in there. Someone can correct me on that, but in that time, he is really connected with the players on the team, the recruits that Georgia gets. He is an invaluable part of what Georgia has done. And when Dan Lanning left to be the defensive coordinator, to be for the defensive coordinator position at Georgia, and went to go be the head coach of Georgia, I do think there was concern there, naturally, because there was concern when he took over for Mel Tucker. And this is just what people do. But Glenn will be a head coach one day, and all there is to it is that these programs, Georgia has created a program where these coaches, they just do an exceptional job of developing themselves, etc. And sort of his story. Coming from Alabama, coming literally on the plane with Kirby and Mel Tucker, he summed it up like this. He said, "Going in my senior year of high school, my dad was a coach, my mom was a coach. I didn't necessarily ever want to be a coach. I always wanted to be involved with athletics in some shape or form. Going in my senior year of high school, there was a moment at football practice where I helped another player with something, and I had the biggest rush in my life seeing them be successful after me helping them in some way, shape, or form. Kind of that moment, I knew I wanted to be a coach. My father played for Bear Bryant in Alabama. There's a Bryant scholarship. I had the opportunity to go there, and I essentially just came in and worked for nothing at first and tried to do just anything I could to earn trust and respect and then grow my football knowledge from that point. I didn't necessarily set out to be a college football coach. I just wanted to be a football coach. Then that led me here, and I've tried to do the best job I could at each step of the journey." The thing about Schuman, I think, too, is he should get a lot of credit for that 22 national championship. I mean, there was a lot of transition on that, on that team and on that in that time from 21 to 22. I mean, you had a lot of good players leave that defense. N'Kobe, Jordan, Trayvon Walker, Quay Walker. There's a bunch of guys that were really good that left. And then you had, this guy, Glenn Schuman, taking over. Now, he'd been around a little bit. I'm going to put some photos of Glenn up right now. He'd been around. This is when you could tell, to me, it was more and more evident in the 20 season. Excuse me. Here he is getting Monty Rice ready for the Kentucky game. I did not take this image. They would not let me on the field in 2020 for COVID stuff. I was at the game early because I didn't have anything else to do. Glenn Schuman and Monty Rice were on the field Monty is in full pads here. Monty had been dealing with an injury. This was the third game of the season, I think. No, this is game after Alabama, so it was later than that. And him and Monty were out there really, really early. This is in 23 against Auburn. I think this is before Georgia won the game outright. Here is against Ohio State in the Peach Bowl, a critical game. I just want to go back to that for a second. Kirby's there, but you see Will Muschamp, Jarvis is around here somewhere. This is a team that was trying to save its season and did. Here he is. I do not know his son's name. That's his wife right behind him, if I'm not mistaken, to his right, and his children. Again with Will and Kirby up at Tennessee. Tennessee, the images create some of the best backgrounds because of Georgia being in white and everything else in orange. Here they are about to win the national championship for a second season in a row. I don't know when that was. Here he is talking to Pop. Look at that beard. The other thing about Glenn Schuman, this is him younger. I was just about to talk about this. He goes full sweats, man. Like he goes out there in the full deal. Here he is against Georgia in the Orange Bowl. And the thing about these bowl games is that's the last moment these teams are together. And this is the shot that I used on that Rainman ripoff. And anybody who's seen Rainman if you've seen Rainman, you have someone with special needs in your family. There's a lot of moments in that movie. You're like, oh yeah, I've seen that before. Here he is again with the sweatshirt. That's in the summer. Yeah, that's August 10th, 2018. And then of course, right at the beginning, this is probably Georgia's second or third practice. He's in full sweats. But I have to say, I get it, frankly. But I run a lot, so I shouldn't say. I think for Georgia, the fact that Glenn Schuman's been around as long as he has is not exclusively a testament to Glenn, but it's also for Kirby. I mean, Kirby's done a great job of making sure he's developing folks. When Dan Lanning took over, coming over from Memphis, I remember thinking, did Schuman get passed over, or is he just never going to be the defensive coordinator? And then, for these last 2 years, Georgia's lost one game. They hadn't exactly gotten lit up very much. I mean, I think they've given up over 30 once. Is that right? It's not been a lot. And, this past year's defense was not as good as the year before, and yet they still got the job done. Last year, they gave up 30 points. Never. They did not give up 30 points at all. And I realize, over 20, anything over 20, you're starting to get to a competitive football game. But Georgia gave up over 20. 1, 2. Okay. 3 times by my count. 4, with the UAB game. That's it. In 22, I think they only gave up over 24 times as well. So Kent State, Missouri, Ohio, LSU, Ohio State, and that was it. Some of those teams really good offense. Oregon has really good offense. Dan Lanning's done a great job out there, and Glenn will get his shot to do it too. But if you don't know, if you're not familiar with Rainman, you didn't grow up in the 70s or 80s, and you wouldn't necessarily know what that means. He was an autistic man who could do mathematics very quickly in his brain. He was a very, of course, but he was, if you know anyone autistic, then that's not always the easiest journey on earth. But he had capabilities that other humans didn't have mathematically, and just seeing stuff, counting cards and stuff like that. And that's what T-Rob's talking about, is this guy can do stuff quick. He's smart. But it's not surprising. It's not surprising. I don't know how Kirby is on a computer. He should be pretty good. And to be my age, he's a year older than I am. He should be able to work computers pretty quickly and so forth. But I know how coaches are, and they're not good at that sometimes. So it may be that he's in that position. But hey, let's make sure you're signed up to the newsletter, as you're going to miss out on all these stories about. I got some stuff about Mike Bobo coming up, Oscar Delp coming up, Georgia Clemson 1982 coming up. You're going to miss out on all that. The newsletter's right down below. Make sure you're not missing out on that. We have a story today about Tate Ratledge. Let me put it on the screen. We have a story today about Tate Ratledge and his journey so far at Georgia. Taking nothing for granted. You have this discussion about the defensive backs, of which Glenn Schuman has to deal with quite a bit. This is a good it's a good Georgia team. You don't want to miss on any information from us in our newsletter because you're not a subscriber to it. It's free, so sign up down below. But I think for Glenn Schuman, the next stop is a major Power Four football job. At some point Clemson will come open. I don't know when. Sometime soon Florida will come open. Ole Miss will likely come open because of that. But you want to go to places where you can be successful. Dan Lanning found that out real quick going to Oregon and doing a great job out there so far. I think there are fewer and fewer schools where you can truly win the national championship, and Glenn will get his pick of that soon. He's young. He understands how to do this. He's been at Alabama under Nick and Kirby under Georgia under Kirby. I'm not sure that there's a better, he's been in really successful situations. The defensive coordinators he's worked underneath before becoming defensive coordinator were Kirby Smart, Mel Tucker, Dan Lanning. That's pretty good. That's a good group. And the head coaches were Nick Saban and Kirby. There was a lot to, there's value in these guys that are learning along the way. You don't have to be a star football player to be a good coach. Most good, really good players, Steve Spurrier, are not good coaches, Steve Spurrier. I mean, most guys that are really good coaches, were not great players. Mark Richt, the coach at Florida State currently, was not a great player. Kirby was a good player. Kirby was a good player. I think people forget how kind of good he was sometimes. It's just a different sport now, is what I would say. But was Shane Beamer good? I don't think so. I mean, most of these guys that are their coaches have not been exceptional players. I think you'd say the same thing about Glenn Schuman. You don't have to be a great player to be a great coach, but he is definitely a great coach. He's done a really good job. I've talked a lot about what his future will be. One of the part of his future will be this 24 season. They've got to figure out how they can reduce the amount of run game against them this year. That could be, there's a lot of different things you can do there. There's a lot of different, stuff, but it comes down to players. I mean, like coaches can't make players be great necessarily. I mean, they can make them better, but you start with really good and you make that better as best you can. And they've got a few new players, Georgia, but the bunch is about the same. You've got the return of Nazir, Warren Brinson, Ingham Dawkins, Williams. That will be the basis of your front. You've got Hall and Jarrett, who are going to have to be young guys that play and are good. You got linebackers like crazy. Jalen Walker, Small Munden, Chaz Chambliss, Bowles, Allen. I mean, they got players, man. And in the secondary, the young guys are really good. The older guys, Starks, Everett, these are good players. And, they've got a good team. They do not have the 21 off defense. They don't. But here's the thing about the 85 Bears. That's not what you want to be. You want to be Nick Saban's defenses, which means they go on for a long time. The 85 Bears were really good. They were exceptional. They won one Super Bowl. You want to have longevity. And in this game, you can because you're talking about college football. But I think with Glenn, he's done such a good job. And honestly, it's in my opinion, I was telling someone higher up at Georgia maybe a while ago now, but Kirby Smart's Rolodex is not insignificant. And he's done really a great job of recruiting and retaining coaches. And that's allowed Georgia to have a lot of success. Make sure you're signing up for the newsletter. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next video on A Very Excellent Driver.